the last question we talked about was that I said all student athletes need to ask themselves is, what will it cost me when the game is over? And I think our answers from the first two questions also was peeking into the third question. Because at the end of the day, Jay, I've been watching football for a long time. My memory go back well since 1984. I've seen high football in my own city at the high school level, the college level, and the pro level. And I've never seen in 4 decades a 55-year-old running back. I never seen a 55-year-old running back trying to just ram into somebody and run somebody over to get a touchdown.
Man, they don't even have retirement leagues for that, man.
Yeah. And these
they're doing it on the commercials, man, with the copper fit.
Yeah. and they run in slow motion. Because what's up, student athlete world? It's your boy Lester Sanders here from Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this is I Am Student Athlete. What's good, student athlete world? Welcome to the I Am Student Athlete podcast. I am Lester Sanders, your host, and this is
Jay Keys, your co-host.
We're coming to you straight from Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is the podcast where we coach you to be triple-double mindset student athletes, which is to be great, number 1, in the classroom, number 2, on the field of court, and number 3, in the game of life. Jay, I'm super excited. This is the very first podcast, man. I'm super glad that you agreed to do this podcast with me. I really think it's going to be very beneficial on the education piece, not focused on the sports performance piece, but on the overall student athlete piece, to be able to get this information out for our student athletes to make the right choices and decisions and be great inside the classroom and outside the classroom, man.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, man. I was thankful when you reached out and asked me to be a part of the show. We never lack experience. We never lack, the things that we've gone through for, it to go to waste. So I'm just glad that being able to have experience, and being able to share those experiences and give some insight. And now that I've began to reach a ripe age, I can share some wisdom.
I like how you put that. You said you had some ripe age.
Right. Yeah, man. We ain't gonna say OLD, we gonna say ripe.
Yeah, right. We seasoned brothers after about 4 decades on this earth.
Yeah. Salt and pepper. It's all in the beard. I ain't got no hair on my head, but you can see it on the beard.
Well, you see, I got it. I got the salt and pepper up there, man. So I represent that way.
Right.
But man, a lot of people might be asking. A lot of people that's watching, they might be asking, why would you create a podcast for student athletes? And man, I really just felt led to do a podcast, man, like as you said, based upon our own athletic experience, our student development experience, our student athlete development experience. And I just really think today's athletes just need concepts, strategies, and ideas so that they can make the best choices on the field and off the field. Because one of the things that I teach is that information changes situations. We know that 18 and under, those years, is challenging for student athletes, male and female, to be on the right path, to make the right choices, to make the right decisions. Even high academic performing student athletes is still a challenge, because why? They're under 18, they're young, but they just need information sources to partner with their coaches, with their families so that they can make the right choices and decisions. Brian Tracy has a quote. He said that a genius without a roadmap will get lost in any country, but an average person with a good roadmap will go straight to their destination. And I believe that we're being used at this particular time. I know it's a passion of mine, and I know it's a passion of yours to help student athletes become who they ought to be on the field or the court, and also in the classroom and the game of life. And so, also, I look at my history, over my 4 decades of living life, being born and raised in the inner city of Canton, Ohio, born and raised in a single parent home, spent 17 years in public housing, and, growing up in the late 80s and 90s, being a quote unquote boy in the hood. We always was trying to find that way out. What is that thing that's going to allow us to be successful, to navigate the obstacles and hurdles that kind of just happen or that come along with living in the inner city? And so, especially in Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, man, football was a big attention getter. And, football was my sport. And so between 6th to 9th grade, I had, in 6th grade, I had a cousin, that lost his life to violence. 2 classmates, while in middle school, they was in class on Friday. They didn't make it back to class on Monday. And so between 6th to 9th grade, man, I really start making some decisions. We know that word decision was made famous by LeBron from the first time he left Cleveland. But back in the from 89 to 93, man, I made a decision that I'm gonna ride in the student athlete vehicle and try to see how far it would take me. I knew that my grades needed to be right in the classroom, and being a student athlete was the motivation to do what I needed to do in the classroom. And then ultimately, man, I was one of those kids that I ate with my football, I slept with my football, I did number 1 and 2 with my football. We saw the Hall of Fame game. We grew up in the tradition of watching Camp McKinley football in the Pro Football Hall of Fame Stadium. Then it was called Fawcett Stadium. And so I just look at all that, and I saw football as my way out. But then when I got to high school, man, 9th grade, I was 5'7". I never forget it, man, 158 pounds. And so, I got my eyes set. I'm trying to get me a scholarship to a college so I can go to college for free. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm trying to get to the league. Then I got to 10th grade. I'm 5'7", 168. So I'm working out, taking all my vitamins, trying to get some different supplements in. I'm working out all crazy on the off season, going into my junior year. I'm still 5'7". Now I'm 168. So going into my senior year,
it was coming together for you horizontally, but not vertically.
Yeah, man, the vertical wouldn't happen. I was developing my skills horizontally, was right. I'm getting stronger, I'm faster. And then I'm like, man, let me add some spinach to my game. Back in the day, we used to watch Popeye. Man, senior year, 5'7", 178. So I was blessed to be able to have some cousins who was already playing ball in college from D1 to D3. And so I was blessed that they were able to begin to start having conversations with me about the profile and the size of Division I, Division II, and Division III players. But luckily, man, I was able to start for 2 years at strong safety. And when I had to hang up my cleats after walking on at Kent State University my first year, man, I didn't have no regrets, man, because based upon the information that I had at that particular time, I know I gave it my best shot, man. So, kind of fast forward, when I hung up my cleats, I focused on just getting my degree, going home and being a social worker. I got my degree in criminal justice, and I focus on prevention in the juvenile justice system and positive youth development. So once I graduated in 2001, I went home, started doing some social work, man, working, started speaking at different places. So I balanced work and speaking since 2004. And then, man, I started, had a couple opportunities to coach freshmen, defensive backs at McKinley, and just looking at their transition from middle school to high school. And then just looking at a lot of people in our class, those that came before us, start looking at that transition. There was a lot of people like, what's my next steps? Whether they had to hang up their cleats or their shoes right at the end of 12th grade, or if they had to hang up their cleats or their shoes, in college as well. And then I just never forget it, man. The clock was like 0-0-0, senior year, 1995, my senior year, Mass McKinley game. We playing in front of 25,000 people. We win 24-21, real close game, stadium full of people. I wake up the next morning and my Uncle Eric threw 3 big Kent Repository newspapers on me in my bed to wake me up. Now, this young generation, they don't know about them thick Sunday newspapers. They reading their news online and everything. But right. Man, I got those newspapers. I was on the front page. We lost the victory bell in the 100th meeting of the Mass McKinley game. So I had this thing like, man, if we don't got that victory bell in any game, whether going into this senior year, I'm gonna be the first one to go across. So I went and got that victory bell, and they had that picture of me and Adrian Brown pulling that victory bell. And then kind of fast forward, we graduated spring 96, and then it was like, oh man, what's next? And so even though I had a lot of support, there was still a ton of information that I didn't have. So I always said, I'm not going to be the guy that's bitter because I didn't get the scholarship out of high school or go to the pros. And so I always made it a mission of mine to make sure that I pass on the information that the next generation of students and student athletes need. And then at the end of the day, man, there's no manual we get when we graduate. You get a trophy at the banquet if you balled out enough to get a trophy, but it didn't come with no manual for life. When we get that high
and that's the thing about it, man. It's a continuous learning process, man, from the time you come out of your mother's birth canal until the time that, you go home. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about, your death. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a continuous learning process.
Yep. And I hope this just be a vehicle for, that today's student athletes can see as, hey, sports is important. Hopefully that they see the classroom is important. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that you need in addition to getting a good education. And it's my goal, it's my prayers for this to be a resource that student athletes nationwide and possibly worldwide will gravitate to as a source of motivation and guidance and direction. So, we were born and raised both in Canton, Ohio. I played football. So let all our viewers know what was your journey through sports growing up, and your thing with you was varsity with Canton McKinley basketball, and tell them about Jay Keys, man.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Canton, Ohio, my situation was somewhat similar to yours. As a youth, we always grew up, going to McKinley football, basketball games and stuff like that. And just imagining ourselves being in that situation, being in those shoes, and as we continue to get older and as we continue to evolve into, what our passions were, where we were being, gravitated towards, that's what we kind of, grew into. As a child, up until about 12 years old, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played baseball, played basketball, played football. And then once I got up into middle school, I continued to play basketball and football. Kind of left baseball alone. One of those things I look back on and say, hey, man, kind of wish I would have stuck with that a little longer to see how that may have panned out. Especially considering the dynamics of the situation and hindsight being 2020, knowing the things that we know now about longevity and how, different sports affect your body, your mental health, so forth and so on, but, that's that at that time, that's not what was, I was being pulled to. I wasn't gravitating towards that. And that's why I can appreciate this podcast, because although we're not going to tell people what to do, we're going to offer as much advice, as possible to give people some things to think about and give them the tools and the resources, to consider some things. I feel like, if it was, some platforms like this, or some mentors that were out there that were sharing some of this information with me, and giving me the pros and cons, in regards to certain situations, certain sports, certain scenarios, certain paychecks, then, some things would have been reconsidered. But, as I went through my junior high years, and then I got to high school, it came down to one sport. I just started playing basketball. I had considered to continue to play football. Never got to run out of that tunnel like I always wanted to, when I was a kid, and put on that football uniform, man, and play in that rivalry game, that Madison McKinley rivalry game, that, who knew that it would be as historic as it was, being on ESPN and Sports Illustrated and all that stuff, because of the 100th anniversary. Hey, man, if I would have known that stuff, I definitely would have played football, man. I wanted to be a part of history, Now they made films. Yeah, they made films about it and all that type of stuff, man. They got y'all in the movie theaters and everything, man. Folks coming and eating popcorn, pulling up to the movie theater, shoot, man. I wouldn't mind being a movie star.
Hey, Jay, you said maybe I should at least just play to have a jersey on.
Man, yeah, just to have a jersey on, man. I wouldn't mind being on special teams, man, running down the fields, something, But it didn't help. It didn't turn out that way, man. So I played basketball. I was when we were in high school, it wasn't freshman to senior. We came out of the era where middle school was junior high school.
Yeah. So that's key to to take a look at, because back then middle school, it was junior high. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then our last year in ninth grade. Then the 9th grade moved up to the high school. Yep.
That's right. So we were a part of that trend setting, when we have finally got to high school, we were 10th graders, and that was the norm. It was supposed to be 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, but our first transition to high school, the freshmen came over with us. So we never experienced being underclassmen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
right.
we walked into the situation, kind of being in the middle of the pack, So we ain't really have to go through the quote unquote hazing as much. You know what I'm saying?
Freshmen took the brunt of
it. Yeah, man. So, we were fortunate, man, but being in high school, I played varsity basketball as a sophomore, as a junior, and then also as a senior. My sophomore year, it was a good year. I had a lot of experience. I got a lot of opportunity to play my sophomore year. You know, I wasn't a starter or anything like that, but you know, I was a major contributor.
You got some burn though. I remember, man, you got some burn as a sophomore.
Man, I played a lot as a sophomore, man. And matter of fact, I hit a game-winning shot in the tournament, man, for us to beat Massillon and move on to the next tournament game.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So
no,
yeah.
You know, the dynamics was different back then because we had a freshman squad, we had a sophomore squad where we had a full 10 game schedule. Of course, basketball is a few more. Then you had the opportunity to play JV and varsity, man. So
yeah, no doubt about it. So you know, man, that experience, you know, I'll never forget it. You know, and you can never trade, you know, just being on the team and with lack of experience in comparison to experience. So just being able to have that experience, you know, early in my high school career, you know, it allowed me to have, you know, a pretty good junior and senior year. So, you know, after that, you know, I had an opportunity to go to prep school. I went to prep school, and I only stayed up there. Prep school that I went to, it was called Winchendon.
So I'm gonna take a note for a future show when we're looking at options after high school. You know, a lot of times that prep school route isn't always mentioned. I know when you went to prep school, we was like going to prep school because it just wasn't on our radar back then.
Right.
So we're gonna do a show down the road about all your options with the prep school, junior colleges, and then just going straight to the various divisions and all that as well. So keep going. Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I went to this school in Massachusetts, man, called Winchendon. First time ever being away from home, man, and I'm all the way up in Massachusetts, you know. Of all places, man, Massachusetts, man. It was probably like Winchendon was probably like an hour and a half from Boston.
Okay.
You know, nothing was out there. I mean, nothing. You know, so when I tell you, you know, it was strictly school and strictly basketball, I mean, that's what it was, man. That's it, man. So I mean, you know, when you were there, man, you were literally locked in. Okay. Literally. You know what I'm saying?
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go, bruh. Nowhere to go. So, you know, it was a good thing, man, because there was no distractions, you know. So, you know, the focus was on the schoolwork and you know, on your sport, you know, and so, you know, man, the growth.
So for the viewers to know, you went to prep school right out of high school.
Yep.
And so did you have any offers right out of high school?
Yeah, I had a few offers, but they weren't the type of offers that I had wanted.
Gotcha.
So okay. I went to prep school as what was called a postgraduate. You know, I had qualified academically. You know, I had took my ACT test and all of that stuff, and I met all the requirements academically and all of that stuff. So I was scholarship eligible. I just didn't have the type of offers that I was looking for at the time.
Got you. Okay.
You know. And prep school served me well. I only stayed 11 games, man. And, you know, and as the podcast, you know, as we continue to grow into different more and more episodes and stuff like that, you know, I'll slowly begin to share my story in the process. Yeah, but I only stayed 11 games, man. And the prep school that I was at, they ended up winning the national championship. And, you know, I had came back to Canton. You know, at the time I was receiving enough offers at the time after 11 games, and you know, I was kind of like satisfied. You know, I was kind of satisfied. But on top of that too, you know, I was dealing with another situation personally, you know, which we will, you know, talk about, you know, a little later on, man. You know, which weighed heavily into my decision to leave Massachusetts. But I ended up accepting a scholarship to Bowling Green State
Mm-hmm.
University. I played in the MAC, and it was cool. It was cool. It was a great experience. After that, kind of bounced around, transferred, to a couple other schools, and then ended up coming back to Canton, finishing my degree, and then got involved in education. I got a business management degree, but some way somehow, I was just pulled into the education world and
Mm-hmm.
started working with the youth, and community as far as like outreach and stuff is concerned. So, here I am now, as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
father, a husband, and a youth advocate.
Yeah.
And that's where my passion lies. I'm also involved
Mm-hmm.
in ministry, and and I'm just a man of service.
Yeah.
I'm a man of
Yeah.
service, and a representative of Christ. And I just try to, now that I've turned my life over, and I allow God to lead me as opposed of my flesh.
Likewise.
Um,
Yep.
y- yeah, I've been able to stand, upright, man, in character and integrity, man, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's been working out really well for me.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man, because, when I started, really having the thoughts and, the vision for this podcast, man, I was racking my brain like, man, for this podcast, I knew I wanted to bring, have a co-host or, have multiple people on the podcast, far as hosting it. So I kind of narrowed it down. I want to start off with, we'll see where it go, but I think I want to just keep it, where we have, uh, two people pretty much hosting it, that we can invite guests. But man, out of all the things that you said, man, and having similar backgrounds up to high school, I went to Kent State, you went to prep school. I thought it would be a good match for us to come together, bring our experiences, and offer them to the world, man. And plus, you said you really wanted to play. You said you really should have kept playing football, but man, I always admired the basketball skills as well. But I didn't go out for varsity, man, because I was only gym class nice. Hey, I could get me about 12 points in gym class. But that varsity basketball thing, I knew it wasn't gonna work, man. I got cut in 7th grade at Hartford. So
Yeah, man. It's a little different, man, when them lights is on and the popcorn is popping, man.
oh man,
But
it's
but
totally
yeah, man.
different. But that's
Yeah,
two different
yeah.
backgrounds, because you went the prep school route, you earned you a
Mhm,
degree. Um, I was a preferred walk-on at Kent State University. I didn't get any
mhm,
Division I offers, um,
mhm,
but I did get some visits to some Division IIs and Division IIIs. Was heavily recruited by Mount Union, but just the way the
mhm,
financial aid packages and all that was, it was a better financial fit for me to walk on at Kent State. I had tore cartilage in my knee in the East-West All-Star game, and woke
mhm,
up that next morning, couldn't bend my knee. So I was able to get a few weeks into the summer practice, man. And then one day I just couldn't even backpedal no more. So I had to get knee surgery, got that fixed. Spring ball come around, came up, made a tackle, and it tore again, man. And then at the end of the season, man, I just chose, to hang up my cleats, um, because with my mom paying for college by herself, man, I was like, hey, man, it's time to close this chapter of my life and move on at the end of the day, especially being 5'7".
right,
100.
right, right,
Hey, then I might have
right.
been I might have been 184 then in my first year in college. So it was time to pretty much move on, man. So I asked you, to do the podcast. I told you the vision. What was one of the main reasons? Because I looked at at the end of the day, I was looking at the information that student athletes needed. to succeed. And I thought you would be the best fit far as with chemistry, our history throughout high school and our young adult years. So I thought you would be the best fit, to start this podcast off with.
Yeah. I mean, just like I said before, it's all about giving back, and being a man of service. I understand who I am, and it took a while. That process. I had to go through it, and God had to reveal some things to me, for me to truly know who I am and to embrace, the call and the purpose that He had in my life. I know physically, I was in position to be able to give back, to a lot of people, in regards to sport and in regards to the game of basketball, working people out and training people and things of that nature. But now, I'm at a point in my life where, I have to give back, by other avenues, other means, and now it's through experience and it's through wisdom, so just once again, to be able to be in this position, to do that, I plan to drop as many jewels, as many nuggets, as possible. And, for those, who appreciate it, they'll embrace it, and maybe some will choose to apply it. But, at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that, people are not using the excuse that they did not know.
Yeah. And see, you kind of walk right into, you walked our viewers into another reason why I picked you or asked you to be the co-host, because we both wear multiple hats. I'm a academic program coordinator for a college access program called Rising Scholars at Kent State University, the START campus. So that's focused on trying to help students get prepared, college-bound students get prepared for that high school to, college and real world transition. Since 2004, I've been traveling around the country as a student speaker, motivational speaker, primarily to high school and college age. And then I'm also a licensed and ordained minister as well. So let's, we'll have more time to really, keep diving into our stories, going into the background of why this work is needed to reach student athletes, not even just student athletes, information that their parents can use, and coaches is always looking for information to help their student athletes be the best people that they can be, male or female. So let's jump into today's topic, man. So today's topic, which I think may end up turning into a series. So today's topic is student athlete success. What is the price of entry? Student athlete success, what is the price of entry? There's a bunch of student athletes nationwide, multiple sports. Now, me being a football guy, you being a basketball guy, we'll give our perspective a lot in that sport, but that perspective is universal. It transcends to all sports. But no matter if it's youth league, middle school, high school, AAU, college, or pro sports, there is a cost to get into the arena. So what is the cost all student athletes must pay to be successful in their sport? And that's something that I wish more people had a conversation with me about. To be a successful student athlete, what is it going to cost you? Because there's nothing in life that's free. It's always going to cost you something. And, in my student development work, I had an opportunity to coach freshman defensive backs at our alma mater, Camp McKinley. And then I also had an opportunity to just do student athlete development with Coach Rick Hairston and the 3 basketball teams that he was the head coach of, Timken High School, McKinley High School, and then now in his first year at Glen Oak High School. And so I'm looking at before I played, because we studied a lot of players in multiple sports. I'm looking at when we played, and then after we was done, there's a cost involved that a lot of student athletes didn't realize until their senior year, and they had to hang up their cleats or they had to hang up their sneakers. So I think there's 3 questions that student athletes must ask themselves. Number one, what will it cost you to get into the arena of student athlete success? Number 2, what will it cost you to stay in the arena of student athlete success? And number 3, what will it cost you when the game is over? I'm gonna say it again. Number 1, what will it cost you to get into the arena? Because it's one thing to have a dream about a sport. It's one thing to go out there and train, but you got to actually get into the arena of student athlete success. And then you got to figure out what will it cost you once you get there. Now you got to figure out how to stay there. It's a bunch of people that done started 1 or 2 games, but they ain't make it through the whole season, or they ain't make it through the whole, from their freshman year through their senior year, whether it's high school or college. And then number 3, what is it going to cost you when the game is over? So go ahead and take that first one, man. What in your thought process of what you're thinking right off bat, what will it cost today's student athletes to get into the arena of being a successful student athlete?
Now, the first thing that had popped to my mind, man, was passion. You know, because when first of all, man, to become passionate about something, it takes a liking. You know what I mean? So, you know, you took a liking to something, and then that liking progressed into something more, you know, because you take a liking to something, you know, then you get involved with it. And then once you get involved with it, you know, you get a taste for it. And then after you've had a taste for it, you know, it either becomes, you know, something that you detest or something that you become passionate about, you know. And once you become passionate about something, then that's when the commitment, the dedication, you know, and all of those things begin to be checked off the box. You know,
hold on.
So passion.
Hold on. So I need those that's watching to see, like, it's levels or it's steps. You said it started with passion, but then what's the next steps that you said?
Yeah, after passion, then, like I said, that's when the dedication and the commitment, you know, begins to take place. Because you're passionate about something, then, you know, you become committed to something, you know. And once you're committed to something, then you become dedicated to something, you know, and you want to become the best variation that you can possibly become, you know, in regards to that. You know, in our adulthood, you know, and both of us, you know, we saw something that we liked, and then that liking turned into something that became passionate, you know, and then that passion turned into marriage. And, you know, and anybody that, you know, has experienced marriage and is married, you know, it takes work. And every day you're working at it, and you're feeding that passion, you're feeding that commitment, you're feeding that dedication, you know, to have the best experience as possible, you know, with your lifetime partner, you know, and that's the mindset that athletes have to have, you know, in regards to that sport, even though it doesn't.
I like that how you made that parallel or that connection to the same way that we have to have that in marriage. Is almost, you got to have a marriage with being a student athlete to be great in your overall sport. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even though, you know, it's something that you won't be married to for a lifetime from a physical standpoint,
right?
You know, because we all know,
or that window. Yeah.
Exactly. For that window, you will be, because just like they say, you know, Father Time is undefeated, you know, and our bodies just, you know, our bodies were made to break down. You know, no one has been able to, you know, to defeat that.
Yeah.
You know, your body is just gonna, your body is just gonna break down.
The greatest ever had to slow down.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ain't no doubt about it, man. You know, and as much as they don't want to, as much as they feel like, mentally, they're still there, they're just as witty, they're moving, just as quickly, in their minds, but their bodies just can't function the same way, man.
Yep.
So, eventually, things are going to turn the corner, and, and then, that separation will take place. But, while time is on your side and you're still youthful, you're trying to put as much in as possible to become the best variation, the best, you in regards to an athlete is concerned, that you could be. I seen a quote, from an athlete, man, from the, and I'm gonna actually say his name, man. It was from Eric McCullum, and them McCullum boys, man, they have some of the greatest work ethics I have ever seen.
Man.
I mean, man, they're machines, man.
Yeah,
they are machines.
Eric McCullum that's been playing professional basketball overseas, and we talking about his brother CJ McCullum that's been balling for the Portland Trailblazers in the league. Yep. Yeah, they got ridiculous work ethic. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's not by coincidence that they're having the type of success that they have, man. Even though, people don't get to see Eric play, as much as they see CJ play because he's in the NBA, man, Eric puts up numbers, and, I mean, he's, sometimes, man, things just don't pan out, for some people, but talent wise, ability wise, I mean, man, he can play on that level, and there's no doubt about it. He can play on that level, and he can have success at that level. Man, but anyway,
now can I just say real quick? Keep that thought. I'm glad you mentioned those two brothers, and you talked about, sometimes things don't pan out. And one of the things I want to make sure and we clear on this show is, too many student athletes or too many athletes get focused on, if I don't go D1, then it's all over, when there's a bunch of other options. Or if I don't go to the league, that they don't consider the other options. At the end of the day, there's a ton of options. And that's one thing I want to make sure, that our viewers see is look at their range of options, because if one option or one door of opportunity isn't open to you, there actually are multiple doors of opportunity. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to focus our show the way we focus it, or our podcast the way we focus it, because there was opportunities that I didn't know about for my player profile side. I'm just thinking D1. So I'm glad you mentioned that, but go ahead. Keep talking about the McCullum brothers.
Absolutely. But just in regards, to their passion, man, their passion spilled over to their work ethic, and Eric summed it up, man, excellent, man, with a quote. And, and I'm paraphrasing, but he had said he had made up in his mind that if he put in the work and, and that work ethic, that nonstop work ethic, was it, it was well worth putting in that work and having a nonstop work ethic, for 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years of this window of work, of hard work, this nonstop work, to be able to position him for the rest of his life. Man. He said it was well worth it. He said in his mind, he thought about, if I just dedicate myself for this small window of work, then I can chill out and sit back, because I've accomplished these things and I've made enough money to be able to retire at a reasonable age, and enjoy the rest of my life, because I made up my mind to put in nonstop work and commit myself to this passion and to this work ethic.
But see,
and
No, that's also transferable because we know that 99.5% of student athletes nationwide won't get that scholarship to play in college. And then we know that there's a small percentage of that small percentage that is in college that get the scholarships. There's an even smaller percentage that actually make it to the league. But what you said about that time that he said, I'm going to dedicate, will work whether your student athlete career is this long or if it's this long, but you still want to look at how am I getting the most out of whatever time frame it is, even though that the time frame will be different for everybody.
Yeah, and you got to remember, man, and why his statement was so profound is because of the fact that he played at Goshen University. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So he's playing at a small level school. He went to a small level school. Yep. Exactly. He didn't get a major Division I scholarship.
Because the pros don't find you no matter where you go at. They got private investigators. They got people who is their job, whether you go to the highest level school or mid or a small school, if you got the talent to go to the next level, they're going to find you.
Right. But just like you said, that work is transferable, you know, and Eric was a guy that figured that out at an early age, man, you know, and it showed every year, every year I would, from the time that, he was a teenager, you just seen it, every year he just got better. And it became like, steps. I mean, he wasn't all the way at the top of the mountain, from the very beginning, he took the steps, it wasn't handed to him. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't given to him, he wasn't all-American status. They didn't say he was the number one player in the nation, things of that nature where like they hand stuff to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't handed to him.
Because
he took the steps and he did not miss a step.
Yeah, because there's always going to be them student athletes where they're just so gifted that it's handed to them. And then a lot of times, even if it's handed to them, there's a ton that actually work for it. But then there's also a ton that don't work for it. But if things aren't, handed to you because of your profile of talent or because of the actual school that you went to, it's a ton of athletes throughout the history that just worked their way all the way through, didn't go to the biggest schools, but they still ended up playing professional ball. And, that kind of even tied what you're saying, it ties into one of the thoughts that I had about what will it cost you? I mean, we know that if we go to a bank today and we say, hey, I would like to withdraw $1,000. And if we don't have $1,000 sitting in the bank, we cannot withdraw $1,000. So if you only got 500, all you're able to get is 500. So with that being said, I think it connected to what you said about the time that you put in. You always is going to want, you are always is going to want to get something out of the sport. But if you don't invest and you don't put something into it, you are not going to be able to make a withdrawal.
Man, that's that sweat equity right there.
Yep.
That's the sweat equity, and being willing to put in that work, because what you put in, everybody knows saying what you put in is what you get out of. People walk into these situations, with the expectation that they just automatically good. You know what I mean? But just like you had spoke to, man, the numbers get smaller and smaller as you continue to move up, in age and in grade and stuff like that. The opportunities and that window of opportunity, gets smaller and smaller. So, for the ones that understand that it's somebody all the way in Nebraska that's putting in that work, and want that spot, just like it's somebody all the way in Florida that's putting in that work and want that spot. You know what I'm saying?
So Washington or
these
Wyoming.
are people. Yeah, man, these are people all over the United States, but then all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about global. We're talking about global competition now, where they're bringing in foreigners, and all of that type of stuff, man, and giving them opportunities, because at the end of the day, for coaches, on that college level and that professional level, we talking about livelihoods, man. These are livelihoods.
Yeah, because college is looking not just nationwide, but they bring in international students and international athletes in, same way on the pro level as well.
Absolutely. And people want longevity in regards to their livelihoods, man. They're handing out big checks. So these college coaches is getting big checks.
Yeah. So now,
you know what I'm saying?
Yep. So now we at a point where we got to ask ourselves, when we talk about what will it cost me, is you have to be willing to compete, because you're not just competing amongst yourself. I tell students all the time, in the state of Ohio, Stark County is one of 88 counties in the state of Ohio, which is one of 50 states in the United States of America and its territories. United States of America is on one of 7 continents. So, so it's my goal for students to say, if I want to be that man, or if I want to be like this athlete or that athlete, you better understand what you're getting into and be willing to pay that overall cost, man. Yeah, that's some good stuff, Jay, man. So what's your thoughts about what will it cost for you to stay in the arena of student athlete success? Because it's one thing to get in there. It's another thing to stay. And we just gave 2 good examples of the McCullum brothers that went to smaller schools. But when you talk about even CJ went to Lehigh is a known school, but it's not a Power 5 conference school. But he still went first round in the draft, and he didn't touch the $100 million contract in the league. And it ain't all about the money, but sometimes there's some players that everything come together as long as they keep working. Because I want to say, like CJ, I want to say not that he was a late bloomer, but he grew exponentially, or he had like major growth spurts once he got to college.
Yeah, literally.
So, So he had the height, but he had the growth spurt. And that time in college allowed him to grow. And then when you see a picture of him from now versus in college or in high school, you like, wow. So I think that's a testament to, if you continue to put the work in, you're going to get a lot out. But he went to those schools, but he had to do something in order to stay there. So speak to that, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, he took it personal. And just like you said, man, he didn't go to one of those well-known schools, one of those bigger schools. So when he played against those bigger schools, just like when he played against Duke in the NCAA tournament, which he's very well known for, man. Every time the NCAA tournament rolls around, they're showing clips of Lehigh beating Duke because of CJ McCullum. That was because of that chip that was on his shoulder, that passion that we had talked about. And he took that personal, man, and he took that personal, that personal rejection, and he funneled that energy into his work ethic, But for that
athlete where everything is not on the platter, but you that student athlete with that chip on your shoulder, you got to use that chip as motivation to keep you moving forward.
Definitely as motivation, and just even in answering this question, it makes me think of a Bible verse, man, where it says, in all that getting, get understanding.
Oh, that's one of
So as an athlete, man, and as a young athlete, you want to get understanding. So just the way that you began to break things down, in regards to the counties, in regards to the states, and in regards to the competition that's out there, if you are willing to get understanding and really put everything into perspective, then that should drive your work ethic exponentially.
Man, that's
you know what I'm saying? Because now are you not motivated? Now are you not motivated with the competition that you're seeing every day? But now you're motivated about the competition that you don't see every day.
Yeah. See, that scripture, and all you're getting, get understanding, that's one of my life scriptures that I've been using probably once I hit high school. Being able to have some understanding of what you're getting into. What is it going to cost me? What is it going to require of me? Having understanding, not just in your world, but what's going on around the whole world.
The big picture.
And yeah, the big picture. And that's how you get to stay in that position. Because I'm willing to bet those who got in the arena but didn't get to stay in the arena, 9 times out of 10 is because they didn't have full understanding of what all that's going on. I was watching, it's called the Pivot Podcast, and they had it's Channing Crowder, Fred Taylor, and then Ryan Clark. They have a podcast called The Pivot. And the Pivot came from the I Am Athlete podcast. And they had Micah Parsons, who is that phenom linebacker that was at Penn State, and he now at the he tearing stuff up for the Dallas Cowboys. He 22, and they were talking to him, and I could just, throughout the podcast, I'm like, ooh, this guy has taken his time to get understanding, because that understanding, coupled with being a phenomenal athlete, is the reason why he's having that overall success that he's having.
Man, absolutely, man. You know, as a young athlete, that's something that you should desire, man. You should desire understanding, and you should desire being around people with wisdom, you know, not leeches, you know what I'm saying? But people with wisdom, you know, people that's going to give you the right type of advice, man. Because think about it. You want to be a pro athlete, right? But even the pro athletes have advisors. Yeah. They have agents.
Say that again. Say that again, so they don't miss that. They
have advisors.
Yeah.
They have advisors. They have agents. So they are already positioning, you know, with these so-called people, you know, that's offering advice. That's showing them things that they've have already experienced, you know, in regards to the landscape. You know, this would be a good city to play in, or this would be a good team to play for because, you know, this organization handles things this way, and it fits, you know, these characteristics that you have. You know, it fits, you know, this talent level and this ability that you have. You see what I'm saying? So even when you become a professional athlete, you know, they're trying to position you, if you have a good agent. They're trying to position you to be in the best situation as possible for you to be able to maximize your career and your value. So even as a young person, you need to be seeking understanding, and you need to be surrounding yourself with people that will provide you with that understanding so you can be steps ahead of the next person that you're competing against.
So you mentioned about how professional athletes got advisors, they got agents, they got other people that's giving them that information. And I just thought back the same way. High school student athletes, you need good sound counsel and advisors in your life to give you advice. Like, for an example, so I'm at the I told everyone that I started 2 years at strong safety, 5'7", 178. I began to start taking advice because I had a cousin named Donald Martin who played strong safety. He got a scholarship to Illinois State. But my cousin Donald was 6 foot. And so he was the one that really started planting the seed, like, look, dude, you good. I even made it to the Camp McKinley Hall of Fame. But I was good, but he like, look, man, I'm 6 foot at Illinois State, and that's not the biggest school. So you got to really begin to start opening your mind about what options you're going to take. So I was still open to like, hey, man, I still want to go D1. So I'm like, I'm going to go walk on at Kent State since I'm on their preferred walk-on list. But he was opening the door, but I was kind of stubborn on still trying to walk on to a D1. So if I would have opened my mind, I really should have walked on maybe at Youngstown State, because we know my running back at that particular time was Adrian Brown. He had a scholarship to Youngstown State. And then I was getting recruited by Mount Union, which is the school that I actually should have went to. I just couldn't afford the private school costs. Because that's where the smaller, phenomenal athletes go to, like Mount Union. I missed the 96, 97, and 98 national championships. So I still think about that sometimes.
They win championships.
Yeah, they got
winning programs.
13. They the machine. They the Alabama Crimson Tide of Division III. But I'm just using that as an example of, make sure you have wise counsel, get advice, and in all you're getting, get understanding, because it could have been different walking on at Youngstown State or looking at Division II options if I still wanted to try to compete for a scholarship. So that wise counsel is invaluable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, we talked about, the work ethic that you need to invest, and the persistence, in developing your athletic skills. I think student athletes today, we didn't have the internet like it is today. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have IG. So we didn't really get to see huge in-depth athletes' work ethic. But now it ain't no excuse. You got Google. They got YouTube. Steph Curry got his whole life on there. What's my boy from the Phoenix Sun? Devin Booker. You got
Booker.
Yeah. They got whole videos on, they work ethic, and what they whole pregame warm-up is like somebody's practice. So you got the persistence and athletic skills. Let's definitely hit that. We got to hit that classroom, man. What's your thoughts in order to stay in the arena of student athlete success? The same way we go hard, or we gave these examples about investing in the sport, we also got to invest that in the classroom as well.
Yeah, you do. And that's the whole purpose, and behind, student athlete, and and I have my opinions on it, what I mean? But it's a part of the game.
Yeah.
It's a part of, the process in regards to, what your ultimate goal is, as an athlete.
Because you at least got to have all your credits and stuff to be eligible to qualify for the scholarships and all that stuff.
Yeah. And you have to do this in order to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And, and competing in the classroom, man, is just as beneficial as competing on the field, or on the court, because at the end of the day, we're doing one thing physically, and we're trying to become the best that we can be, physically as an athlete. But at the same time, man, we can't neglect, our brain. We can't neglect, growing in intelligence, and once again, understanding. So, man, it's nothing wrong with wanting to be, the best student that you can possibly be, and competing in the classroom. A lot of times we neglect that aspect of it because of the lack of interest. We kind of just focus on, the one half of it, because, we're more excited about that, for whatever reason. They bring you popularity, or, whatever, or you may genuinely love the sport, and be passionate about it. But, when it's all said and done with, and your career is over, now you got to compete intellectually, and you don't want to miss any steps in regards to being able to compete intellectually. So, being in school and all of that stuff, it has its benefits, and just like everything, and,
and there are some things
that, And just
Yep.
like anything else, man, nothing is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that are flawed, and there
Mm-hmm.
are things that you can make cases against,
Mm-hmm.
but why will you allow that to deter you from
Mm-hmm.
being, the best version of you that you can possibly be, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And once again, being dedicated and being committed, to academia, is
Mm-hmm.
just as important as it is, being on the football field or on the basketball court.
Yeah, because one of the things, the parallels that I try to make, you know, the same way people are gifted athletically at different levels, there are people that's gifted academically at different levels. But the one thing that you can't get out of is about the effort and the focus and the drive that you put in. Because when you
Yeah.
start talking about trying to be a student athlete, you got to be balanced across the board because it's a reflection of your effort and the time that you put in, at the end of the day. But that's what I promote. I promote balance, man. I promote balance. The same way maybe for a basketball player, I'm strong with my right hand, but not as strong with my left hand. Some
Yeah.
student athletes is good across the board in all grades, but then some student athletes got a subject that they got to work harder at. So in the
Yeah.
same way that you build that thing up, you just got to be persistent across the board because all of it goes back to is how much you invest. Yeah. So, basically, Jay, my goal is just to convey the message of being balanced in the classroom, on the field and court, and also in the game of life. Because that balance will trickle over into your life. Because usually, if one area is not balanced, it has an effect on another area. When we look at highly successful student athletes, highly successful pro athletes that are able to stay in their arena, they're able to stay in the arena because of balance. And if something gets out of balance, they look at the game film, they look at where they need to tweak, they look at where they need to improve upon, they get understanding and some information, and then they make the adjustments so that that balance is right in all areas at the end of the day. Because it's one thing to be
Yeah.
on the top of the totem pole or high on the totem pole, but you can't stay on the totem pole.
Yeah. And I mean, and when you think about it, man, the only thing that allows people to continue you know, um, to be a part of something is based on consistency.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
you can't be a professional athlete, if you're not consistent. You know what
mm-hmm,
I'm saying? Like you can't stay
mm-hmm.
on the court if you're not consistent because that means I can't depend on you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So I'm gonna find somebody that's going to be able to provide that consistency, in the areas that I need, so that way, when games, I don't have to worry about this athlete being eligible, because once
mm-hmm,
again, we're talking about coaches that have concerns about their livelihood.
yeah,
So, it ain't just about giving out scholarships, for young men and young women to step
yeah,
onto the campus
yeah,
and play a sport.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You're coming
yep,
to this campus to play this sport and you're also feeding lives. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You're
yeah,
taking care of this man's livelihood as the coach, and that
mm-hmm.
livelihood is feeding into his family, his wife, his
So
children.
he
You know what
looking
I'm
for
saying?
people that's going to be consistent because when you look at the overall business of college sports, um, once you hit college and really once you hit varsity in high school, this participation trophy era ends because we're in the we grew up in a time frame where everything is earned and things change, things evolve, and then we move into this participation era where you get a little bit of playing time because you put in a little bit of time or you was just there. But once you hit a
Yeah.
certain level, especially high school, definitely high school varsity, and definitely college and the pros, you got to earn everything that you get.
Yeah, man, I hate that. You know what I mean? I hate the participation trophy. Because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, man, you setting people up, you setting young people up,
For failure.
for failure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You setting them up for failure, man. Because when you get out here in the real world, it's cutthroat. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're competing. Competition never stops.
Well,
You're
well,
competing.
well, even at the basic level, Jay, uh, Walmart don't accept participation award dollars.
Right.
The gas bill, the electric company,
Right.
they don't accept
Right.
participation award trophies. You got to put that work
Nope.
in to get what you earn in order for you to make the transactions for the various areas of your life to work. And it's the same thing for sports.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And that's the unfortunate part. Like, once again, like I said, because now you've got, young adults that are stepping into, you know, the real world per se, and they have this mentality of, you know, things being handed to them.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Versus
saying?
earning it and
And
working
that
for it.
sense of, yeah, man, that entitlement,
Mm-hmm.
and entitlement just doesn't work,
Mm-mm.
in real world scenarios, man.
Yeah.
And that's why you starting to see, the crime rates and stuff, amongst, younger people going up. You starting to see
Mm-hmm.
more and more young people trying to rob folks as opposed to earning things.
Mm-hmm.
They just had this mentality that if you ain't gonna give it to me, I'm gonna just take it from you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now they have that mentality younger and younger. This is just a side note, about the young man that's 16 years old, that around here that just committed aggravated robbery, and now he got to go to real man prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real man prison. And
Not no JV
talking about in
prison.
regards to being right.
Yeah. He got to go to the real
Real
deal
man,
now.
grown up, big
Yeah.
boy, the big boy joint. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So just like you was talking about, in regards to being 5'7", man, this little fella was 5'2",
Mm.
100 pounds, going to the big boy joint. The
Mm.
big boy Joan. That's
Mm.
where he headed. Aggravated robbery, man. You know. But once again, man, it's because of the participation, you know.
Yeah.
And so now, these kids, man, they have that mentality where, if it ain't handed to me, then
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
get it.
just go take it,
Yeah.
because I automatically I just deserve to have it.
And
It just don't work like that, man.
no,
I
because
can't
this.
stand the participation trophy.
But my thing is, that's why this podcast is needed. And I know we're not the only ones out here giving this information, but as many
Absolutely.
people as possible, this type of information got to go forward. Because if we can get people to swallow the pill that I must put in the work in, develop my passion, develop my skill and talent, and invest the amount of proper work, get with the right information, the right people, the right counsel, then you put yourself in a position where you don't have to compromise to do something the wrong way because you've put in the work. And you talked about consistency, and now I can position myself to get the things that I need and want. One of the things I always say in student and student athlete development, man, if I could take students in a time machine forward, take them about 27, get them a year of experience of the real world, and then bring them back, I guarantee you a lot of methodologies, a lot of thought process, and a lot of investment would change into their future. But luckily,
Yeah.
that's not reality. We can't go into the future, change, and then come back.
Right.
But at the same time, I want student athletes who are watching this podcast, in your mind, you can go forward because they say experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
But a wise man told me that sometimes, young man, experience is the best teacher when it's somebody else's experience. So talk to people that has lived life past high school. Talk to people that got experience, that then graduated from high school, that then graduated from college, or people who've entered the workforce, and ask them and interview them like, what are some things that if you could go back to 15, what would you do different to be ready at 30, to be more prepared at 35, to be more prepared at 40? So I hope a lot of our viewers take that into mind and begin to start using the experiences of others to allow them to prepare so that you don't get in those situations where you have to compromise and do something wrong in order to get what you actually need and some of the things that you want. But
yeah, and pride, man, pride is a stumbling block for those very reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are so prideful. You know, we already have made up in our minds, like, man, that ain't gonna be me. You know, man, this old head telling me this story, man. You know, that ain't gonna be me. You know what I'm saying? But that's just pride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't want to allow your pride to be a stumbling block for you.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Because that's applicable. No, I was just gonna say that's applicable in a situation in the, you know, the negative situation that you said about the 16-year-old young boy, but also just in the classroom, things that happen in the community or things that happen in your house when parents is trying to get you to say, you know, to do certain things, or when you're on the college campus talking with the coach and you don't understand why a coach may have you to do something, but you just got to get that understanding and know that because you're on a team, he's trying to direct you in a course of action to be disciplined, to be consistent in order to get the best out of you. He or she trying to get the best out of you as a student athlete.
Yep. Yep. And if you're willing to be able to accept that, man, then, you know, once again, I mean, it's just going to allow you to prepare yourself, you know, to be prepared. You know, it will propel preparation. And then, you know, preparation is one of the best tools that you could possibly have, man, in regards to execution.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
you know,
a quote I use from Bobby Knight is he said that the will to succeed is important, but what's more important is the will to prepare.
Yes.
And we know you can be prepared out of this world. There's always going to be some game time situations or game time adjustments that you make. But when those situations come up, you have the opportunity to kick back into your training, to kick back into your persistence, to kick back into your consistency, and you can refocus and develop a strategy to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, you know, the last question we talked about was that I said all student athletes need to ask themselves is, what will it cost me when the game is over? And I think our answers from the first two questions also was peeking into the third question. Because at the end of the day, Jay, I've been watching football for a long time. My memory go back well since 1984. I've seen high football in my own city at the high school level, the college level, and the pro level. And I've never seen in 4 decades a 55-year-old running back. I never seen a 55-year-old. I never seen a 55-year-old running back trying to just ram into somebody and run somebody over to get a touchdown.
Man, they don't even have retirement leagues for that, man.
Yeah. And these
they're doing it on the commercials, man, with the copper fit.
Yeah. and they run in slow motion. Because I mean, when you think about it, them long, like, people don't realize it, but those long Vince Carter careers, those are anomalies.
Yeah.
Those are anomalies to go that long. I was looking up the other day how long Andre Iguodala been playing in the league.
Yeah.
That's rare that people play that long. So at the end of the day, we got to take a look at being a student athlete is going to cost you something. But in the process, you got to develop a game plan for life after your senior year, or life after your senior season, or life after sports at the end of the day. Speak to that, Jay.
Yeah, you definitely got to prepare, man. You know, because just like we had touched upon earlier, man. Father Time is undefeated,
Mm-hmm.
but competition don't stop. So this
Yeah.
is why you continue to compete in the classroom, to ready yourself, when those playing days are over with. That way you're
Mm-hmm.
not caught off guard, you're not caught off balance. When you step into the workforce and into the work world, you have already challenged yourself,
Mm-hmm.
mentally. So how to compete mentally. You're not just diving into the situation cold turkey per se,
Right.
or with a lackluster work ethic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because you can get lapped mentally. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
you can get lapped physically on the
Yep.
track,
Yep.
and somebody faster with you with more endurance. That's what you're building mentally. You're building that endurance. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Being able to think swiftly, being able to, apply things, swiftly, and have that endurance, you know. And
Yeah.
then, if you have,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you have those things, then you allow the experience to come.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot about, people, being first year on the job in comparison to, somebody that's been on the job, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the young buck that's came into the situation, and that young buck supposed to be, the future, and and he's that bright one, that one that's supposed to be that guy, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But then he runs into that person that's been on the job for 20 years, that veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and he's doing things a certain way, but that bright and shining young man that's just on the job, he's stepping in there with the lack of experience, but he
Mm-hmm.
may have that talent and that knowledge, in regards to, book smarts and
Mm-hmm.
and that book savvy, but he don't have the experience of that veteran,
Mm-hmm.
so that veteran knows how to handle certain things in certain scenarios, certain situations,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
particular way, for the company to be extremely successful. But because you refuse to humble yourself, stepping in
Mm-hmm.
there, as that young buck, thinking you all that, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Um, not willing to, come up under somebody's wing,
Mm-hmm.
and get the experience to apply with your potential. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So, you know, and that's why, once again, and that's why I love the fact that, we're doing this sports podcast, man, because the analogies of life tie into sports. This is why, professional teams keep veterans on their team.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
draft the rookie. The rookie is being all hyped up to be the savior of the franchise, and all that. He's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be this and that, and he the best thing since sliced basketball, and et cetera, you
Right.
know. But they make sure that they got a 15-year vet, 16-year vet,
Mm-hmm.
17-year vet, 18-year vet that's on the team, that's sitting on the bench, to say, hey, young Rook, you know, you need to handle this way. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Hey, young Rook,
Mm-hmm.
you know, instead of going out tonight, you need to make sure that you're getting in the ice bath, and doing this, and this to
Yep.
take care of your body for that longevity. Hey,
Yep.
young Rook, instead of eating at McDonald's or that Wendy's, you need to go to this restaurant so you can get this type of meal to,
Mm-hmm.
to replenish your body, for you to be able to get ready for this back to back that we getting ready to
Right.
play.
Right.
Hey, young Rook, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This particular player, has these types of tendencies, and they like to do this, they like to do that, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera. You might want to consider playing him this way. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yep. So you talking about, don't just look at the glitz and glamour of the game. Study the game from A to Z, on the court and off the court, on the field and off the field, and then you'll be able to actually reach the goals and get the things that you want to achieve through the sport.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Jay. So, on average, this is our first episode of the I Am Student Athlete podcast. So on average, we'll come up with some different segments, as we focus on our topics and everything. So I got a segment called, before we wrap this up, is If I Knew Then What I Know Now. And really all that is that's nothing but advice to decrease the number of regrets within the next generation of student athletes. We all could, if we could go back, we would say, if I knew then what I know now, we would do a whole lot of things differently. And it goes back into that piece of today's student athletes saying, man, experience is the best teacher, but experience is the best teacher sometimes when it's somebody else's experience. So if you could go back to 15 or 18, what advice would you give yourself so that you could take advantage of more opportunities that came along your way, or the doors of opportunity that was open to you?
And man, I wish I would have been able to hook up with Marty McFly, man, and got him one of them time machines.
He said, man, find a time machine, look at life in the future, and then come back and just do it right.
Right. Yeah. Back to the future on them, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, as for me, I just wish I would have dedicated myself more. I wish I would have stayed, a lot more focused on my craft, and didn't allow the distractions, to become as prevalent as they were in my life.
Yeah.
Once I got to high school and stuff like that, a lot of things began to present themselves. And instead of saying no, I indulged, because I wanted to see what that was like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You start being around people, that have been culturalized per se, who have, experienced some things and dabbled in some things, and you just get caught up in the glitz of it. You know what I'm saying? You seeing their reaction, and and their reaction is a draw for you, as a teenager. And because you innocent, you hadn't indulged in those things, you want to see, well, what's the hype all about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And just like anything, man, when you experience something for a first time, then them dopamines, man, dopamines, they kick in. You know what I'm saying? Them dopamines kick in, man, and then you experience that pleasure, that excitement, and you want to experience it again. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I just wish I would have said no more, to the outside distractions, and put that energy completely into, my craft, and also, man, into my personal development, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like the same way, the time we invested in our athletic talent, we should have invested a certain amount of time into our personal development, because I always believe that personal development is synonymous or just as important as athletic conditioning is to the athlete.
Man, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, man. I wish I would have, if I knew then what I know now, I would do the same thing as managing distractions. And there's various types of distractions. We could go on for two hours about the distractions, but everybody know what they distracted by. And there's a term that they use now that wasn't used when we was in school. We was all, today we affected by the COVID-19 virus, but man, we was affected by the FOMO virus, the acronym for fear of missing out, thinking we was gonna miss out on something, thinking we was gonna miss out on the fun, we gonna miss out on this or that. So if I knew then what I know now, I would say, hey man, all these distractions that's coming your way, close the door on them. And at the end of the day, some stuff is cool to miss out on at the end of the day. Because there's always the hype is bigger. The marketing of the things is way bigger than what it actually is at the end of the day.
And the experience.
Yep. Yeah,
when you
man.
look back on it, man, when you look back on it, it's whack.
Yeah. Yeah, because you start look you hey, start
man,
looking
I wasted my time. I wasted all my time on that.
And that's one thing, man. I know this is focused on student athlete development, but man, just as human beings across the board, man, the greatest commodity that we got is time.
Yes.
And you can't get your time back. And that's something that we gotta constantly increase our understanding and how to use it and spend it as wisely as possible so that you can get the most out of life and don't have to play catch up in your mid 20s or your late 20s or your catch up in your 30s and 40s or older at the end of the day.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, man, Jay, once again, man, I want to thank you for, committing to be my co-host, my partner. I won't say in crime, but my partner in student athlete development to get this message out to the student athletes across the nation and around the world. Student athlete world, we out of time, but certainly not out of message. This is the I Am Student Athlete podcast. And remember that greatness is a process and you are more than an athlete. Peace.